Welcome to Bible study. My name is DJ. I'm in a closet. Let's get straight into it. Father, we thank you for another day, another opportunity to come together and study your word. We open the eyes and we open the ears of our hearts to receive revelation knowledge from you that will go forth, walk it out, and be a light in this dark, dark world. We thank you for it in the name of Yeshua, in the name of Jesus. Amen. So, Genesis 1:1, Part 6. Ceremonial preparations of the Gap series. Ceremonial preparations, the Gap series. So, up until this point, from Part 1 all the way to Part 5, we went over creation. We went over the creation of this physical world and the process and how he did all that and how all this came to be. So now that everything is created and now everything is set in motion and everything is running the way the Father had it to run, to work, now what happened? So this is where the actual gap comes in. So we're still in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We're still in that first verse. We haven't gotten to verse 2 yet. So this is what actually happened in between those two verses. So this is what happened between creation and then, the recreation. So let's jump into this. Ezekiel 28:12-14. Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. The carnelian, the chrysolite, and emerald, topaz, onyx, and jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. So, if you know a little bit about the Bible, you know that this is speaking of Lucifer, right? Lucifer, the angel. So, Lucifer, the angel, I'm just going to give you a spoiler alert. So Lucifer was, after the creation, the earth was there, but the earth wasn't cultivated yet. It wasn't tilled. It wasn't ready for use yet. So God sent Lucifer and his band of angels to go. He sent them to the earth to cultivate and prepare the earth for He sent them for ceremonial preparations. Ceremonial preparations. Now, what is this ceremony? You're probably thinking. The marriage supper. It's a wedding. The marriage supper of the Lamb. The wedding ceremony that the Father is going to have, that God is going to have with his soon-to-come man. See, man isn't on the scene in this point. Remember, we haven't gotten that far yet. So man is not around at this point. It's Lucifer and his angels. They're the ones that were sent to the earth to prepare for the ceremony. So we'll see that as we go along in this study. It'll make more sense as we go along. So you were the seal of perfection. Let's look at the word seal. Seal. By extension, to be a model. To be a model. All right. So you were the seal of perfection, or you were the model of perfection, you can say, right? To be a model. What's a model? A system of things, a system or thing used as an example to follow or imitate. A system or thing used as an example to follow or imitate. So when the Father created Lucifer, he created him after him in order to be an example and imitate him. Now, some people might have a problem with that. Just think, we know that Lucifer was created with instruments in him, with mute. He can produce music from his being. He was in charge of the worship angels, the music, uh, the worship angels, the singing angels, right? And what did God create the heavens and the earth with? With music, right? With music. So when he created Lucifer to imitate him, and we'll find out why here in a minute. Also, model of a person or thing regarded as an excellent example of a specific quality. A person or thing, in this case, Lucifer was regarded as an excellent example of a specified quality, which is perfection. So he imitated perfection, which means he imitated who? He imitated God. God created him to imitate himself in order to come to the earth and prepare and set up and cultivate the earth for coming man. Right? You might have never heard this before, so it might be hard to swallow, but nevertheless swallow it. Right? So he was the model. So he modeled himself. He was modeled after God, and then he himself was a model, right? Because he was modeling God. A person being regarded as an excellent example. So he was an excellent example of perfection. He was an excellent example of a perfection. So what is an example? A person or thing regarded in terms of their fitness to be imitated, or the likelihood of their being imitated. So he imitated the Father, he imitated God, as he is now fit to be imitated himself because he imitates God. 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. So as, I believe this is Apostle Paul, as Apostle Paul followed the example of Christ, now he's fit to be followed. As Lucifer in this case followed, was an example and followed after God, the Godhead, now he's fit to be imitated himself. Right? So he imitates God for the purpose of ceremonial preparations. Right? We'll get into that. Just stay with me now. So we understand that, right? He's the example. He imitates God. He's fit for that role because he was created for that role, right? And he imitates God, and in likelihood he's to be imitated. We imitate God, don't we? We're supposed to, at least. So let's look at terms. So now that we know that Lucifer was sent to the earth, let's look at the terms of which he was sent to the earth. Term: a fixed or limited period for which something, example, office, imprisonment, or investments, lasts or is intended to last. So a fixed or limited period for which something lasts or is intended to last. Right? So Lucifer being sent down here, it was a fixed and limited period for which he was to set up for the ceremonial preparations. There were terms and conditions set, right? There were terms and conditions set. So there's a fixed period of time to which he was intended for the imitation, the ability of him, of his God, of him being God, little g. There were terms and conditions for that. There are terms and conditions for his imitation of God for the purpose of the ceremonial preparations. So there were terms and conditions, right? conditions, termed, the second definition, conditions under which an action may be undertaken or agreement reached, stipulated or agreed upon requirements. So there were conditions. There were conditions. So he had that power to imitate God, but there were terms and there were conditions under which the action was undertaken. There was an agreement reached. There was an agreement reached. So Lucifer and God reached an agreement on the conditions and terms of his imitating the God, or the power that he had. There were terms and conditions regarding that, right? There were stipulations. It was agreed upon. There were agreed upon requirements. Agreed upon requirements. So agreed upon requirements. So as the Father and Lucifer went over the terms and conditions, they were agreed upon. So Lucifer knew what his job was. He knew his that he was given temporarily the power to imitate God, right? And it was agreed upon. The requirements of that was agreed upon. So Lucifer knew exactly what he was doing, or what he was supposed to do, how he was supposed to do it, and how long he was supposed to do it, right? Conditions. So, conditions set prior requirements on something before it can occur or be done. So, there were set requirements on his ceremonial preparations. There were set requirements before it was done, it could be done. So before it can occur or be done. So there are set requirements before it can be done. So he knew exactly what to do. It wasn't that God created Lucifer as this high-ranking angel and he just set him out to roam around and get into trouble. No, he was given an assignment, and he knew exactly what the assignment was. He knew the requirements. He knew the conditions. He knew the terms. He agreed upon them. He agreed upon the requirements. Right? Does that make sense? He agreed upon the requirements. He knew exactly what to do. He knew what his job was. And he was given the temporary power to do it. Right? Now, a person or thing regarded in terms of their fitness, terms of their fitness. So he has to be fit for the job, right? What is fitness? The quality of being suitable to fulfill a particular role or task. The quality of being suitable. He had to be suitable to fulfill this task, to fulfill this role and task, to fulfill the role of imitating God and a task of setting up the ceremonial preparation for the marriage supper of the Lamb and man. The covenant ceremony of man and God. So the quality of being suitable. So you have to be suitable. So if you're suitable for something, that means that you have to train. You have to know exactly what you're doing. He has to be suitable. He has to have went through that process himself. Because we know that the angels had a covenant, the everlasting covenant with the Father. So they've been through this ceremony. So he knew what it entailed. He knew what it was. And he was suitable. He was suitable for the job. Now, fitness, let's look at the root word fit, of a suitable quality, standard, or type to meet the required purpose. Of a suitable quality, standard, or type to meet the required purpose. So the required purpose was to set up the ceremony, and he had to be suitable. He had to have suitable qualities. He had to have standards to meet the requirements. So there's a vetting process, right? He didn't just get thrown into the job. No, he trained for this. He was created for this, and he trained for it, and he knew exactly the terms, conditions, and all that we just went over. He knew what was to be done, right? Of a person or thing, in this case a person or angel, having reached such an extreme condition as to be on the point of doing the thing specified. Having reached such an extreme condition, so he was extremely conditioned to do the job. Intense training, extremely conditioned as to be on point of doing the thing specified. So when it says he was fit for duty, he went through extreme conditions to be fit for duty. Extreme conditions. He had reached the extreme condition to be fit for duty to fulfill his task. He went to training, boot camp, right? Went to training and in order to be fit for duty, right? Let's look at imitate. Imitate. So he was to imitate God, right? To copy or simulate. To copy or simulate, right? To copy. What does it mean to copy? Imitate the style or behavior of. Imitate the style or behavior of. He studied God. He knew God. He imitated God. He imitated his style and behavior in order to fulfill his mission, right? He imitated the style of behavior. Simulate. What is simulate? From the Latin simulat, which means copied. Represented. From the verb similare, from similis, which means like. He was like God. Simulated God. Copied God. He was like God. Like God, little g, right? Starting to make sense. We're starting to see, the 5 I wills. Some of you guys know what that is. I'm going to be like God because his authority was conditioned. There's conditions. There's a fixed period of time at which he was to have that authority. And when that time expired, he wanted to be like God. He wanted that power. He wanted that authority back. Right? But anyways, represented. Now another word for represented is what? Apostle. Because the apostle is a representative, right? So apostle. So Lucifer was an apostle. Some of you might be shocked to hear that, but Lucifer was an apostle. You know who else was an apostle? Yeshua, Jesus. But let's not get too far off. So Lucifer was an apostle. Now, if you don't know what an apostle is, we're going to see. If you think you know what an apostle is, we're going to see. Because an apostle is probably not what you think it is. Apostle is a representative, a messenger, envoy. A representative, a messenger, an envoy. So the first part of a apostle is a representative. It's a representative. What is a representative? A person chosen or elected to speak and act on behalf of others in a legislative assembly or deliberative body. So in this case, Lucifer was chosen or elected to speak and act on behalf of God and the kingdom of heaven in a legislative assembly or deliberative body, right? So an apostle is a person that's chosen or elected. That's chosen or elected, in this case by God, to speak and act on his behalf and in heaven's behalf, legislative assembly or deliberative body, right? Second definition, act as a substitute for someone, especially on an official or ceremonial occasion. Act as a substitute for God, especially on a official or ceremonial occasion, right? So Lucifer was a apostle. He was a representative. He acted on behalf of God in the kingdom of heaven. He was elected. He was chosen to speak on behalf of God in the kingdom of heaven, right? In a legislative assembly or deliberative body. What does that mean? A legislative assembly. What is that? What's legislative? Relating to laws or the making of them. Relating to laws or the making of them. So Lucifer was speaking on behalf of heaven in a legislative assembly or the law or bringing of the laws and the regulations that govern heaven. He's bringing those to earth. He's setting up the kingdom of heaven here on earth. The kingdom of heaven is a kingdom. It has laws. It has rules and regulations in order for it to run. So Lucifer was appointed or chosen or elected to be on behalf of heaven, or on behalf of God, to be part of the legislative body, or bringing the laws and making the laws that govern this earth, right? To govern this earth, given by the Father. So as you can see, this is a monumental responsibility that was put on Lucifer, but he knew exactly what he was doing. He was trained, he was made for this, he was trained for this, and he agreed to this, right? He was made for it, trained for it, and he agreed to it. Okay, so act as a substitute for someone, especially on an official or ceremonial occasion. Ceremonial. What's ceremonial? Relating to or used for formal events of a religious or public nature. Related to or used for formal events of a religious or public nature. So the earth was used for this formal event, this formal religious event, the ceremony, the wedding, the covenant wedding, the covenant union, right? He was sent to prepare the earth for this covenant union, or this ceremony, or the ceremonial grounds, which was the earth was the ceremonial grounds for this event. Let that sink in for a second. Ceremony. What's a ceremony? An act or series of acts performed according to a tradition or prescribed form. So an act or series of acts performed according to a traditional or prescribed form. The ritual observance and procedures performed at grand and official occasions. So this is a grand and official occasions, and there's rituals to be performed. There's acts performed there according to tradition. But heaven has a tradition. God has a tradition in heaven, and he's created earth as a ceremonial grounds for the ceremony for the coming man. And Lucifer was granted temporary power to, basically he was the wedding planner. Sounds kind of weird, right? But for us to something for us to relate to. He was the wedding planner. So remember, this is an apostle, right? This is an apostle. These are some of the. This is the role of an apostle. So if you call yourself an apostle, this is what you should be doing. First of all, you should be chosen and elected by God. But let's not get off into that. So that's what a ceremony is, right? So an apostle is also a messenger. A messenger. What is a messenger? A person who carries a message or is employed to carry a message, right? A messenger is also send a document or package by messenger. Also, message bearer, message carrier, postman, carrier, errand boy or girl, runner, dispatch, rider, envoy, emissary, agent, go-between, legate, nuncio, herald, harbinger. We're going to look at these two words, herald and harbinger. You may have heard these words in the Bible. You know that song, "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," right? So herald. So remember, we're still on an apostle. Apostles are representative. Represents God in the kingdom of heaven. An apostle is also a messenger who is a harbinger or a herald. What's a herald? An official employed to oversee state ceremony, to oversee state ceremonies, precedence, and the use of armorial bearings, and to make proclamations, carry ceremonial messages, and to oversee tournaments. He's an overseer, right? He's an overseer. He carries messages. He makes proclamations, right? Lays down the law. Carries ceremonial messages. He oversees tournaments. He oversees the grounds. He oversees everything. He's the overseer, right? The official overseer, right? Prefigure, foreshadow, foretell, usher in, show in, pave the way for, open the way for, be a harbinger of, be a forerunner, be a precursor of, proceed, come before. Come before. So a herald comes before, goes before the groomsman, goes before the bride, and he oversees and he sets up everything. He's the forerunner. He goes before to set up. He goes before to set up, right? Now he's an official employed to oversee. What's an official? Having the approval or the authorization of an authority or public body. Having the approval or authorization of an authority or public body. So he's an official. A herald is an official, and he has the approval and he has the authorization of heaven to do this job. Right? He has the approval and authorization from heaven to do this job, to oversee the ceremony preparations. A holder of a post in a society, company, or other organization, especially one who is involved at a senior level and is his management, and in his management. So a holder of a post in a society, company, or other organization, especially one who is involved at a senior level in its management. So a herald or a messenger or an apostle is he's the official, right? He's the official He has the approval and the authority, right? Holding a post in a society or a company who is involved in the senior level. So he's involved in the senior level. He's running things. He's the senior level of his management. He's the senior level of management. He's the manager, right? A holder of a post in a society or a company. Company. It's a company. A body of soldiers, especially the smallest subdivision of an infantry battalion, typically commanded by a major or a captain. So, not only did he come down as an official, but he was the official of a soldiers, of a small infantry battalion, subdivision, right? He came down with his angels. He was given angels to come down to do his job, to fulfill the job. He was over them, over this company of angels. A small battalion. He was the major, an army officer of high rank. He was the high-ranking officer of this company, right? He was the high-ranking officer of this company to come down and perform a task, right? So he was the leader of this military company to come down to prepare for the ceremony of the marriage of the Lamb. Is this making sense? And that's what a herald is. Harbinger. What's a harbinger? You may have heard this before. What's a harbinger? A person or thing that announces or signals the approach of another. A person or thing that announces or signals the approach of another. Right? A forerunner of something. A forerunner of something. Middle English. From Old French harbinger. From harbinger, which means provide lodging for. Provide lodging for. From herbergier, herberge, which means lodging. From Old Saxon herbergia. No, forgive me, I don't know some of these words. They're different languages. Which means shelter for an army. Shelter for an army, or lodging. From Hera, and which is an army. Hera is an army, plus a Germanic base, meaning fortified place. Fortified place, barracks, or something like that. Related to harbor. The term originally denoted a person who provided lodging. Later, one who went ahead to find lodging for an army, right? To find lodging for an army or for a nobleman and his retinue. Hence, a herald, mid 16th century. So, Lucifer was to go and set up lodging for his soldiers. Set up lodging for his soldiers. What's lodging? A place in which someone lives or stays, what? Temporarily. A place which someone lives or stays temporarily. So they were to go to set up and prepare, and he was to set up lodging for them, to oversee the lodging and set up lodging so that they can stay temporarily to do the job they were supposed to do and then leave or go and do whatever else they're supposed to do. So, a place in which someone lives or stays temporarily. This is a temporary thing. We knew that from his agreement back up top, right? His agreement that he was given that authority temporarily, and he was to come down here and stay temporarily to do the job. Right? And finally, envoy. Remember, this is all what an apostle does. This is an apostle. Envoy. A messenger or representative, especially one on a diplomatic mission. On a diplomatic mission. He's on a diplomatic mission. What's a diplomatic mission? Diplomat. Diplomatic. Of an edition or copy exactly reproducing an original version. So he was supposed to come down here and then on a diplomatic mission to exactly reproduce heaven here on earth. Exactly reproduce what was on heaven here on earth. That's what he's supposed to do. Exactly reproduce what was in heaven here on earth. That was his diplomatic mission. Reproducing. What is reproducing? He's reproducing heaven on earth. What is reproducing? Produce a copy or representation of. Produce a copy or representation of. So he's supposed to produce a copy and representation of what was in heaven here on earth for the ceremony. Right? Representation. What's representation? The action of speaking or acting on behalf of someone, or the state of being so represented. The action of speaking or acting on behalf. The act of speaking and acting on behalf of someone, the kingdom of heaven, of God, or the state of so being represented. Right? Diplomatic mission. What's the mission? An important assignment carried out for political, religious, or commercial purposes, typically involving travel. So Lucifer had to travel from heaven to earth, right? He had to travel from heaven to earth on an important assignment, which we know what that is, right? And carry out for political, religious, and commercial purposes, right? And he was a diplomat, so he was to reproduce what was in heaven, travel here to earth, and reproduce that on earth. That was the mission. That was the important assignment that he was to carry out, right? In Matthew 6:10. We know the Lord's Prayer, right? Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So Lucifer was to bring God's will from heaven to earth. From heaven to earth. So his will, his way, his laws, the buildings, the structures, all that stuff, he's supposed to reproduce that here on earth. Temporarily to set up for the marriage supper of the Lamb, set up for man and God and the covenant ceremony between God and man. That was his mission. That's what he was supposed to do. That's what he was supposed to do. That was his mission. That was the plan. And we kind of know what happened, but you can get a little bit more into this next study. So that's what happened after creation, and that's what his assignment was. That's what his assignment was. That's why he was here. Because some people ask, why was he even here? Why is he even here? Well, he was sent here on a mission to do something, but he obviously failed. If you read the Bible, you know that he failed his mission. He tried to hijack and take over the earth. He tried to set up his own kingdom instead of setting up the kingdom of God. But anyways, I hope this made sense, and I hope this helped you. If not, just keep going back over it and over it until it makes sense to you, so that we can continue. so that you can continue and get understanding. And all you're getting, get understanding, right? Understand what happened here. And that should answer, a lot of questions for some people. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.